All right, good evening, everybody. System Chalk here for our 43rd episode of Book of Hours, our first YouTube run through it. I've had a little bit of a bumpy ride getting this video to you today, just because of a few little interruptions over the course of the day, things like trying to get groceries. I don't know if you will be somebody watching it, but there's somebody who sent a message on Twitch. It was actually a private message, so I don't think they would have a problem with their name being pointed out, but it was very much a, wait a minute, I recognize your name. you're the guy who did that Cultist Simulator video. It's worth saying, you know, there are a few of you who are quite regular commenters. There are actually a few of you who I've gotten to know quite a bit better over online because of these videos. But I will say, and I understand this completely because this is how I watch YouTube myself, most people don't reach out. It's a bit unusual to contact a YouTuber over a video that you like. I comment on very few of the videos that I watch. But I will just say, for my own part, they do actually make me feel quite good because for a very long time, the only comment I would ever get on YouTube would usually be very negative, and that was one big thing that changed as a result of Cultist Simulator and, of course, now Book of Hours, and it's something that I always continue to appreciate. So, again, there is a way of focusing a little bit too much on the broadcaster or my stuff, but I think a nice balance to hit is to express gratitude for the times that those come up. So if you happen to be the individual I'm talking about, know that you made my night. And if you're not the person who I was talking about, the fact that you are here and listening to this is taken into account by the Google metrics, and I appreciate you every bit as much. So we were going to work on Ambrosial today, so we've already started on Ambrose's desk, and the trick that we were working with here, I'm trying to remember with regret, I do believe it's Winter and Forge, but I didn't feel comfortable enough with it to lock it in. So what I decided to do was we started by reading Ambrosial, and then I'm reading, what was it? Well, this couldn't be it, but it's the Natan desk, or Motley desk. Natan desk, Motley bed. But we're reading the 6 Letters of Necessity with the idea that that will give us foresight, which we can use as our supplement to the existing text. And we're leaving the Shapt available so that if it asks us for an element of the soul, we can apply that. And if we don't need to use an element of the soul, then we can just catalog another solar book. And of course, from yesterday, we're still doing the other things. Harvesting plants, helping patrons, all the sorts of things one might associate with the Librarian of Hush House. We'll see where we're at in terms of the skills, but I think the next couple of days as far as books are concerned are going to look a little bit like this, simply because we have the Nectar texts to be reading, but we also have a couple of other forges, and indeed, as far as our knock is concerned, we may have a couple of texts that we can do a similar trick for. So that's kind of my main priority right now. On top of that, where I can, I would like to either bring in new books or unlock a few new rooms, but if it comes down to it, I've got enough to take care of my elements of the soul over the course of the day. You'll notice here that as far as the elements of the soul were concerned, we really didn't apply them towards, I don't want to call them frivolous projects, but like a good example of something that isn't a high priority that I do sometimes apply an element of the soul towards, earning money in the Sweet Bones. We've got a £1 note. There's absolutely no reason for me to be working in the Sweet Bones unless I don't have anything better to do with that element of the soul. That includes cataloging books. It's also quite clear from my experience with the crafting list. One thing I might start doing is once I level up a skill high enough, I might actually just sort of cycle through some recipes for it just so I can keep on top rather than, try and do a big inventory all at once. But But yeah, as you can see, like we've got some crafting that we want to do, but in general, there's just there's a lot that I can still get done in terms of either reading books, cataloging, so on and so forth. And so yeah, I don't feel too bad about not making progress in rooms, because in the end, progress in rooms are enabling the activities that I'm going to be doing already, such as reading books. So the history plant has risen. Gather its blooms. Agave eterna, the history plant, unlike its cousin, the century plant, blooms every year. Perhaps it will do so forever. So that's a 2-lantern, 1 nectar, 1 winter flower. In theory, this could be used to make Solomon's preparation as well. Excuse me, but we won't focus too much on that. I certainly have other uses for it. Okay. I do need to figure out exactly how much attention I want to put towards the Sea Blessed Pears, because they are quite helpful. I also keep forgetting that they have moon aspect. I know that they give you nectar, which is kind of the primary use. Oh yes, they also don't give heart. They give grail. So there are vegetables that give heart. Pretty sure it's heart. Anyways, I should sort that out. All right, as a bronze spintria for our trouble. It wasn't clear Zachary Wakefield. It wasn't clear what Zachary Wakefield intended with the new crop of cults. It was clear that it was nothing especially constructive. Okay, let's get to work. So I've got the revelations. We are 10 seconds away from finding out what we need to do with Ambrosial. So let's read the books that we've been working on. So first of all, Prophecies of Glory, religious and patriotic fables collected or composed by William Gore. This is much more sober in tone than Gore's previous Wainscot histories. Evidently, he became religious in his later years. Each fable describes the coming of the second dawn, when the hours of the sun will be united, but in eternity denied the vampire light and the feast of rays. Gore depicts a tainted dawn, which can only be purified by a second division of the sun. He insists repeatedly on the dangers and temptations of a false dawn. Oh man, I don't think I've ever read that one before. That's rather big. Okay. Watchman's Paradoxes, and 2 of them, so this is worth paying attention to. This, in fact, would be something I'd be willing to renew some Lantern for. And we got Revelation for our trouble, so I believe that goes on this shelf. Okay, and the Berry Book. There's a Blake, 7th Librarian of Hush House, talks about fruit for no other apparent reason but that it was the kind of thing she did. She talks about fruit in the woven language Killisimi. Who was it once said, fruit is the womb of a plant? It was me. Take a few moments to think on that unripened wisdom. I shall leave a blank space for your moments here in this page. Nectar, children mine, cast my words into a sufficiency of nectar and watch the Pyrus Persimmon burst from wood. Gather more nectar, wring it from the trees and earth, and our Persimmon gushes forth the sacrament. You will thank me. All right, so this, if it's not clear, this is actually, it's kind of timely that we've been talking a bit more about crafting lately. If you want an example of, this is not the clearest hint that the game will give you, but if you want an example of something that tells you how to make a keeper level recipe, you've got it right here. So nectar, children mine, cast my words into a sufficiency of nectar and watch the Persimmon burst from wood. So this is the Prentice level recipe that we're getting here. The question might be, well, what skill is it attached to? And generally what I do is I will take the skill that emerges from the text. Sorry, I should remember. I actually don't remember where I put the satisfaction. This is solace. impulse. This is satisfaction. Okay, so leaves and thorns. So with that in mind, with leaves and thorns, if I get 10 leaves and thorns, and I combine that with wood, my expectation is that I'm going to get the Paris Persimmon, which I believe is the higher level pair. I think there was an indication that if we pick this in Numa, we might get we might get the same pair. But in this case here, this gives me a recipe in terms of how to get that through a crafting recipe without waiting for Numa. Next, our Persimmon gushes forth, gather more nectar, wring it from the trees and earth, and our Persimmon gushes forth the sacrament. You will thank me. Now, my guess here is that it is referring to the sacrament malachite. Back in the Dawn period, the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot used this in the rites of the Ringu, the hour which has also been called the malachite. So in this sense here, it would be the keeper level. We would want the specific pair that's referred to in here to be able to build it up. And my assumption here would be that this is leaves and thorns, but it may not necessarily be just this skill. But that would be an example here of one where if you read or reread, because Book of Hours is much nicer to you in than Cultist Simulator in the sense that you can reread a book within the same playthrough. But this would be the place where I would look for those kinds of hints. And this is one reason why you'll notice that I try to, when I can, I try to have a rotation of books that I'm reading for certain memories. It's specifically to be able to pick up on little details like this. Because if this was, let's say we read this at the time we first attempted it, right, when we made my health sick, I almost certainly would not have talked about this recipe. So again, the good news is that not every hint is like this. There are a few hints that are a little bit more direct, but this would be a good example of how the game will tell you what the recipe is if you just kind of have if you know where to look. Now I think we can get away with a starting leaves and thorns without any trouble. So yeah, use this lesson to acquire a new skill. I do want to renew, so in this case, Watchman's Paradoxes has Lantern and Sky, both of which are Faust, so we're going to have to pay to renew that at the Sweet Bones either way. Rest and refreshment. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is summer. I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and a good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. So we're going to use that so that I can level up at least 1 point of Watchman's Paradoxes. I am also going to try and take Leaves and Thorns up to level 2. So maybe we'll move Aronoscopy out of the way to do that. Leaves and Thorns has Grail and Nectar. So, I mean, we can pick that whenever. I'll probably just bring the Arab back. But I'll not worry about it until we need it. Part of that's also just because I'd like to take the impulse with me through the night, so we can only pick one. Okay, the 6 letters on necessity, warnings and confessions about the cost of the secret arts, addressed to a student by the 17th century magus and reputed immortal Julian Cosley. Cosley's tone is urgent, as if he suspected he might have little time left. Even the sun can be divided, though it require the forge of days for its division. So this is the foresight again, exactly what we wanted, and we should have an idea in terms of what the requirements are. So it would like weather, which is unfortunate for forge, a memory, which we do have with foresight, and it would like an element of the soul, which we would use with Shapt, but of course we can already use the foresight, so no point in giving up the Shapt for no reason. So we'll just let time go by on its own. Okay, got the lesson here. Another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms. So we're not ready to level up Watchman's Paradoxes yet, so I'll just wait it out. We're almost done making Solomon's Preparation, but I want to focus on my studies first. So there's nothing that I need, there's nothing urgent as far as Solomon's Preparation goes. Alright, so that's the weather. With Keeper level Winter, Solomon's Preparations are a precursor to the Great Ink Dilettante. So this is a great example here where it's a bit more explicit in terms of what that will get you. So Solomon's Preparation, Solomon Husher would take this every night without fail before sleep to close his ears to the sound of the waves. But on the 9th of January, 1838, a heavy snow fell on Hush House. When the other residents dug themselves out, Husher was nowhere to be found. He had left a resignation letter and an undrunk measure of his preparation. So one thing, I don't want to make too big of a deal on this because I'm not going to do it right now. But as you can see here, Solomon's Preparation is quite a valuable item. And one thing that I haven't done as much in this playthrough is use elements of the soul to just consider individual objects. And the purpose of that is not just to, get whatever memory comes from them, but you actually gain more information about the objects. And one thing that I tend to notice is that it's very easy to do that for something like the Tattered Outlaw. So there's some specific details about the donkey's features that are referred to in this painting. It's quite a bit more difficult when you have something like Solomon's Preparation, particularly when you're just starting out in the game, because of course with Solomon's Preparation, that not exactly doubles, but it's certainly a very large part of the available aspect to open up a room. But it is worth mentioning, like, I don't know what happened on the 9th of January, 1838. If you consider it, I believe this does involve drinking. In fact, we could probably test it right now. Investigate, add a soul card. Drink, yeah, drink the stuff. This will consume the beverage. If it's a whole bottle, consider serving it first so you don't drink the whole thing. Now, this is not a bottle. This is a liquid. It's beverage. It is restorative, but it's not something that I can. It's not something that I can pour out. But this is something that I could potentially gain some more information about to learn about specifically the 9th of January, 1838. So also true for things like sacrament, calcite and such. But, saying that you need to give up a high value drink and an element of the soul, particularly at this point, is a tall order. But it's one of those things I wanted to just sort of plant a flag on to say that ideally, with enough time, we will actually be doing some of that so we can learn more about Hush House and its history. But there's also a time and a place for these sorts of things. So I'm not just going to throw away perfectly good drinks and elements of the soul. Okay, so there's Ambrosial for us. And better now. So there's our Fostback. So I can use that in the Consider verb right away, and that's just so that we can get at least one level of Watchman's Paradoxes. By the end, that will become level 3. So we can move Pearl and Tide down. And with that, we will move Hill and Hollow down, and we will be exalting Watchman's Paradoxes. Okay, so Revelation, Fost, Watchman's Paradoxes. There's always more to learn. And with Leaves and Thorns, it's Nectar or Grail, so it could be Health, could be Arab. It doesn't really matter which, although I am kind of curious where my other Arab went. But for this case, we'll bring back the Health. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal in a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. Okay, Ambrosial. Ambrose Westcott's inventive, one might say pioneering, or indeed buccaneering, essays into kitchen craft. Westcott proudly announces his intention to transform cuisine to become an engine of alchemy, a fount of war. Westcott describes the ferocity of fire with the intensity of appetite as, in essence, one essence. A fire's ability to transform and destroy grows when it is offered the correct fuel. So too, he implies, can a sufficiently inspired appetite allow its possessor to consume greatly, strangely, unwisely. So that got us spices and savors. I believe that is a brand new one for us. And another impulse. So a bit of a shame that we lost the old one, but that does give me a place to, in fact, I think I'm going to need to put this on a new shelf. So it's a little bit of a shame because it makes it, it just kind of disrupts some of the muscle memory that I've got on that, but okay, so I would like to find a replacement. Gossip. Conflict. Okay, so there's not... It's not obvious to me that the regret pile needs to be on there. It's obviously getting a little full. It may be that I need to split certain sections over too, so like impulse may wind up taking up both of these, but I'll work with that when I have to. Okay, overall I'm pretty happy with where that went. Let's go... Okay, I want to go hunting for... Right, the Arab was used to hatch the Viper egg, so that's not a surprise there. We're already restoring our health. So I think the time has come... Well, actually, I suppose I have a bit of an interesting dilemma here. So with spices and savors, I could use the impulse to level that up along with the shaft, and I think that's a good idea. So I'm... counter to my intention, I'm actually not going to catalog a book today, but that's simply because I have a good opportunity to get this at an even higher level. So it is going to take quite a bit of time over the course of the day, but I think I can pull it off. So let's see if that actually works. Okay, the skill is now level 2. Its power and aspects have also increased. So let's say the pentiments and precursors goes down the 1. Spices and savors will eventually become level 2, so let's start with that there. Obviously leaves and thorns is due for an upgrade as well, but we actually need to finish restoring ourselves at the sweet bones. So that's always the indicator to me that I need to wrap things up, but we've got a pretty good plan in terms of how the rest of the day is going to go. All right, it's better now. So I'll be able to get through everything, but the priority would be to handle leaves and thorns first, and this is because I know that I can make the impulse crossover. I mean, in the end, leaves and thorns takes nectar as well. So the fact that I have the impulse actually it's as relevant to leaves and thorns as it is spices and savors, but in this case I'm going to take advantage of the satisfaction. So in any case, we'll use leaves and thorns with the health. There's always something more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. And we should probably be able to get spices and savors up before sundown, but that's not a major priority if I get it done a little bit later. So I still have 6 texts that I need to handle, and of course, I don't want to ignore the the rest of the house. There are other things for me to do, but it's just a question in terms of how I can best spend that time. So let's take our spices and savors, combine that with impulse, our shaft, and of course we're out of memories. So at some point I'd like to read Wrapped in the King, so I can have that that persist, and then it would be good to get something, whatever we wind up choosing. It would be good if we could. It'd be nice if the how do I put it? It'd be nice if I had at least something that I could preserve day to day, just to save me the time when I actually need it. But we'll get something naturally out of a book, so I'm not too fussed about that. I also don't think I read the description of these. So spices and savors, there is no sacrifice without sustenance, and leaves and thorns, there is no scent without sorrow. So overall, that was a pretty good day for us. We're down 1 on the Watchman's Paradoxes, but in the end, we just need 2 memories out of that. The weather may even help us. We know we're going to be working with the green jasper tablet before too long. Eteri After, I don't think we can work with, but the Incandescent Tantra is a likely candidate for our next book. And then I also have this this sort of reserve kicking around here. Although I shouldn't get too comfortable with what's in that other room. I really need to boost up the skills if I'm gonna be reading those. I don't think we're gonna get this, but yeah, we're 10 seconds off. Okay. It's a little bit of a shame that we had to tend the egg overnight, but. Okay, so that cloudy day doesn't really do too much for me for the Watchman's Paradoxes, but that may... I might be able to do something with it. We'll see. But let's get back to sort of our main focuses. So what are we trying to do each day? Well, right now I'd like to take care of sort of the low-hanging fruit in terms of the different books that we're reading. So, for instance, the Green Jasper tablet is something that I'm going to be able to read no matter what. I really just need to get the nectar from a book. So that's sort of a high priority there. So it's going to take us 10 minutes to sort that out. So we'll say that that's that health spoken for. And let's say that the FET's spoken for as well, because the FET's a nice sort of generic element of the soul. It doesn't get me too much from the sweet bones if I use it. And I haven't... I mean, maybe it would be a good idea for me to go to Crowcross Sands and, the moor and such. But for the time being, I think it would be good to sort of focus on the task at hand. I may also want to sort of siphon these off to different tiers of priority, because like essentially the Green Jasper tablet, it wasn't Eteri After, it was Duratio Quercum. These are sort of the bird in the hand. And then when it came to Eteri After, I think that wound up being a bit like Ambrosial in the sense that we've got Inks of Containment with 3 Winter, Whist with 5, so then we can go up to 7 with a Regret, but we're still short the 1. And I do have other uses for the Whist. So let's say that the Tryst would be combined. Actually, I would need another. Okay, let's think about this in a different way. Let's say that Eteri After is off the list right now because there's other things that I can be doing with the Winter. So what are the other things I can do with the Winter? Well, I can get a Winter Memory, and then I can open either the Veiled Chamber, the Silvered Snares, or the Stopped Clock. So let's think a little bit about what we're going to do. Mr. Kill's the one for that. And more importantly, we are going to need to buy the... we're going to need to buy the Whist back, basically. So Mr. Kill, between memories and elements of the soul, we can get him up to 6. We can... And then he goes up to 10 when we give him the Solomon's preparation. I suppose the other observation would be what happens when we give him Eigengrau, although not much is the answer to that. Okay, so we can get him up to 10, and then depending on the food that we give him, so I believe there is not a golden marrow, the dark marrow? Pale marrow. Pale marrow is also a winter item, although I don't want to rely on that too much because there's just not that many of them. Okay, so that gives me something to start with. In a pinch, I can also use the U-Blanc, which has a winter aspect. But again, it's one of these things where if I don't have to use a consumable, so much the better. So in terms of winter rooms that I can go into, so we've got Silver Stairs here, Veiled Chamber, Stopped Clock. Now, one thing that's actually a little bit interesting about the Silvered Snares is that at the moment, it seems like I would still need to use Solomon's Preparation, but I wouldn't necessarily need to use the Whist again. And the reason why I think that's interesting is that allows me to talk with Mr. Kill a few times over the course of the day. And then, so my usual rule is like go to the higher level of the house. I think in this case, in order to preserve my Whist, I'm going to do the opposite. So yes, we're going to grab Mr. Kill here. I should have actually made it a mystery in terms of how I was going to sort out the day, but we'll talk with Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. So we're going to use Mr. Kill to farm some memories over the course of the day. That's going to determine what happens in terms of reading the Incandescent Tantra. So we do know that we're going to use one element of the soul to get wrapped in the king, because that's my only real source of 2 nectar. Well, unless we have a rainy day, but you know, I'm not going to sit and wait for a rainy day to read a book I'm perfectly capable of handling. So we will start with Wrapped in the King. So with that in mind, we are down Dirashu Quercum. Or sorry, no, we'll do the Green Jasper Tablet first. I am going to want to level up the Watchman's Paradoxes, so that will be Lantern and Sky memories. And again, the reason why, so if you're wondering why I sort of said, oh, so why did he go down one path and then suddenly decide that it was, why did he suddenly decide that it was, he was going to focus on something else? It's basically because I recognized that if I didn't have a hireling, I would need to use these elements of the soul to generate memories. And if I do have a hireling, then that's going to have a bearing on what sorts of books I can read here. So that is going to be something that we deal with on Friday's episode. But it does at least get me in a good spot. So I know that so in terms of priorities, I definitely want to read the Watchman's Paradoxes. So that I need the Faust for. And clearly these elements of the soul are ready to go. I definitely want to read the Green Jasper Tablet. We've got the health set aside. And I think it makes a lot of sense for me to try and read the Incandescent Tantra. In fact, on that note, I should probably keep the Shopt aside just so I have a better chance. So really what I have here is 2 core, an Arab, and a Trist to be able to split the attention between the Incandescent Tantra and then, whatever supplemental work that I want to do. Although I think probably that's just going to involve 1 gardening and then 2 grabbing the relevant memories. But we'll see, right? Like it kind of depends on how things go with Mr. Kill. But like I said, not a bad day. So we'll leave it here. Thank you as always for watching, and I believe this should be the Thursday episode, so we should have 1 more left for the week. Again, I always feel a little silly whenever I get that wrong, but trust your eyes, not what I say on the video here. Either way, I do appreciate you watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care until then.